Hello, BookTube. Books with Banks back again with more Malazan content. It's been a few weeks since I posted any Malazan-specific stuff, and a recent podcast episode I listened to actually inspired me to make this video about Steven Erikson's hilarious side series of novellas all about the wicked pair of necromancers, Bauchelain and Korbal Broach, with their trusty manservant Emanciper Reese. I will say no real spoilers for this series or any other Malazan content beyond general and broad themes. So I want to first go over exactly what this series is all about for newer Malazan fans who might not be sure if they want to try these books out or not. And then I'll give a brief ranking of them at the end. I do owe them a reread, as I often read them between the main Erikson or Esselmont books. And actually, really quickly before I get into this, the podcast that inspired me to make this video was actually called, it's Smiley's podcast, Malazan podcast. I'll have a link to that in the video description below. Or Smiley's podcast, they're also on Twitter. But one of the hosts over there recently did an interview with Mr. Erikson, focusing primarily on this side dark comedy novella series. And I highly recommend checking out that interview episode, but also just a bunch of their other stuff. Although they have a bigger following than me, I'm sure, so I would honestly be surprised if anyone was finding them through me and like not the other way around, anything like that, you know. Anyway, getting into it, this series of novellas, all ranging from roughly 100 to 200 pages, published over the course of the last couple decades. It's 7 novellas in total. These have been published and released now with 2 more planned, so it'll eventually be a series of 9 novellas. This series follows the misadventures of the necromancers Bauchelain and Korbal Broach, often from the point of view of their manservant Emanciper Reese. The first novella is all about how Reese comes to work for these 2 devilish fiends, and the rest of the books, or the stories, chronicle their adventures in all manner of settings, different cities, different chaotic scenarios. Erikson allows himself with this series to be a bit more gruesome and comical and cynical, I think, and direct with all of his violence and theme work. The novellas are in chronological order. And here I have the first 3 collected, or 3 of, not the first 3, but 3 of them collected in this Bauchelain and Korbal Broach collection here. But the first 3 are Blood Follows, up here. This is about Emanciper Reese signing up to work for the necromancers. Then there's Leaves of Laughter's End. This is about the necromancers and their new manservant Reese stuck on a ship, upon which gruesome and comedic horrors ensue. Ridiculous side characters are also introduced in the second story, and those side characters show up throughout several of the later novellas. Then the third one is not the third in here, but the third one is actually... Where is it? Sorry. Then the third one is the Wurms of Blearmouth. This is follows the shenanigans of our 3 protagonists in a port town with recently made enemies from the previous story hot on their tails. Deals, if I remember right, deals with the idea of tyranny in a kind of satirical fashion. Then the fourth one is from this collection again, and that's The Healthy Dead. The Healthy Dead is about our protagonist coming across a town that is so destructively and ridiculously obsessed with healthy living. Great story there. Then the fifth one is Crackpot Trail. This is a bit of a detour, but a story all about artists competing to avoid literally being eaten or devoured, as it were, by their ravenous fans and critics. So a really, really great story there. That's the fifth one, Crackpot Trail. Then the sixth one, and for these last 2, I have these beautiful PS Publishing editions. The sixth one is The Fiends of Nightmaria. This is yet again another adventure of our protagonist finding and bringing further chaos upon another town. Fiends of Nightmaria. This one has some beautiful artwork throughout. I mean, I'm just open to there. Some beautiful, like, haunting kind of artwork. That honestly might fit better in like a horror novel that takes itself a little more seriously, but still really, really love this edition. Fiends of Nightmaria. This is number 6. The number 7, the most recent, and this one, Erikson actually, I think he hand wrote it and posted like his handwritten manuscripts of this story on his Facebook page, but PS Publishing picked it up and made this beautiful copy, Upon a Dark of Evil Overlords. Actually just read this year, and this one is about our protagonist journeying to a town taken over by 3 other necromancers, all of which have a manservant in some sort of way that parallels Emancipor Reese's plight, working with such horrible people. So that's basically the gist of these wonderful, wicked little stories. I highly recommend them to anyone who has an interest in Steven Erikson's sense of humor. I would say 3 of them are more atmosphere and theme focused, while the other 3 are a bit more wild and chaotic focused. The slower, and in my opinion, better ones are number 1, Blood Follows in here. Number 4, The Healthy Dead, the third one collected here. And then number 5, being Crackpot Trail. And then the more chaotic ones, if you're into that, they are good. They are a lot of fun. But those are number 2, Leaves of Laughter's End in here. Number 3, Wurms of Blearmouth. And number 6, The Fiends of Nightmaria. And then the most recent one, Upon a Dark of Evil Overlords, I think this is just a bit too difficult to place on that divide. So I think I'll leave it in the middle. All 7 of these take ideas addressed more earnestly and poetically in Erikson's other work, specifically Malazan Book of the Fallen. But here, he just tackles everything that he touches with such a humorous and brutal approach. You can easily take serious themes from the main series and point out which of these novellas is trying to mock some of those same ideas. Just quick example, the 5th book has a lot to do, or Midnight Tides in Book of the Fallen has a lot to do with death, and take characters like Shirk Alal and her relationship to death, take a character like Rulite Sengar and his relationship to death, and then look at how Erikson more delicately approaches those ideas in Midnight Tides, even though the Shirk Alal stuff is funny, but then look at the Healthy Dead story and see how he approaches the idea of death and being healthy. And you can do interesting comparative analysis there, and you can look at how Erikson is clearly tackling things with the same sorts of ideas, but just with tonally different approaches. So for a really quick ranking, I'd say 7th place, and my least favorite is probably the second one, Leaves of Laughter's End. In 6th place would be the third one, Wurms of Blearmouth. And then 5th place, I'm gonna put The Fiends of Nightmaria, but I really do owe this one a reread because for whatever reason, it's the one that I remember the least details from. And in 4th place, I'm happily putting the most recent one, Upon a Dark of Evil Overlords. Right in the middle, I think that's fitting. The 3 above it all, I feel like, have more of an intentional and interesting message, even though they're all still funny. But in 3rd place, I'll do the first one, which is, again, from this collection. That's Blood Follows. And then in 2nd place, also from this collection, is the 3rd one in here, The Healthy Dead. And then in 1st place, easily my favorite, is the 5th novella, Crackpot Trail. Just a brilliant, hilarious commentary on the place and value of artists in society. Really great stuff. Anyway, hopefully this video was helpful to convince anyone hesitant to read these to go on and dive in, give them a try. If you've read these books, I always love hearing about other fans' takes on this stuff and down in the comments. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Definitely check out Smiley's Malazan podcast with Maura and Lee, I believe, are the hosts of that. They're terrific. And there's a link to them down below. Thanks as always for watching. Have a great day. Bye.